Good evening. I'm Rodney Rogers, president of Bowling Green State University, and we are coming to you live from the Mauer Center here in Bowling Green, Ohio at BGSU. Thank you for joining us. Tonight, we're kicking off a series of BGSU Parent, Family, Friends Q&A opportunity to welcome our newest students and their families to the Bowling Green community. And I know we have some returning students that may be listening in as well and their families. Our goal is to provide some information about the next few weeks as you get ready to return to Bowling Green. And let me tell you, we miss you. This is a pretty quiet town without our students here, so we're so excited to have you coming to Bowling Green. And so I want to thank Chris Bullins, our Dean of Students, who oversees our Parent and Family Connection Initiative. And a goal here is to ensure that all of our family and parents that support each and every one of our students, and to make sure, of course, each of our students as well, are well informed about all of the activities and all the processes. So Dean Bullins is going to talk a little bit more in just a minute about the ongoing series that we have planned for the fall term. But I wanted to make sure I came to this first one to again thank Dean Bullins for his leadership and his work. And he's joined by a couple of our colleagues as well that Dean Bullins will introduce. And I just want to conclude by saying to our newest students, you might have had a chance, I perhaps had an opportunity to meet you during one of the orientations this summer. And one of the themes that I certainly want to make sure that we continue to stress is this concept of that each one of us, we need to be all in. We need to be all in this learning community. The power of a learning community is when each member of this community has an opportunity to belong, to have an opportunity to take advantage of everything that we have to offer here, and to find their purpose, passion, follow their dreams, and be prepared to go amazing things. I know I'm all in. I know the colleagues that are with me today are all in. Each and every day we are thinking about how do we do what we need to do to make sure each one of you have the success at this institution. And to our returning students, we're coming out of this pandemic stronger, and it's important that each one of you also be all in and find ways that we make sure that we connect with each other, support each other, and have a great year. I can't tell you how excited my wife and I are to welcome you all back to Bowling Green or to Bowling Green. We are so excited to see you in a few weeks or in a week or two as you start arriving. And at this point, I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Dean Chris Bullins. Dean Bullins.
Thank you, President Rogers, and I know that I certainly look forward to seeing you and Dr. Earl on campus next week as we all welcome our new students and returning students to campus. As President Rogers said, I was asked to provide leadership to the Parent and Family Connections area, and some of you I got to meet this summer during orientation. I spoke each day during the Parent and Family session, and one of the things that I tried to stress was we really value the partnership that goes into supporting our students, their health, their safety, their well-being, and their overall success. And we know that parents and families are a critical part of that partnership. And we talked a lot at orientation about, yes, the roles may change a little bit over time, but your involvement is going to continue to be ever so critical as we all work collectively to support our students. So I'm very proud to be launching this series with you tonight. And the commitment that I have, or the vision for this series, is that once a month, we'll take about 45 minutes of time. I'll invite a few colleagues in. We'll change the topics each time. And we'll spend time presenting some information to you. Now, as we did for this session, we allowed all of you to send questions in advance, and I have a few of those jotted down tonight, but we'll also certainly at the very end of the program make sure that we take questions from you. Should you need to check out at the 7:45 mark, we'll make sure that we've covered our material, but we will certainly stay and continue to work through some of those questions that you give us on the screen tonight. Tonight's topic is really about launching the year off on the right foot. So many of our students that are coming to BGSU for the first time will be living with us on campus. About 90% of the incoming class lives with us. The other 10% will be commuting from home. And so we want to talk a little bit about tonight how we're going to get move-in underway in a very organized way and make that a smooth process. And then for students who are commuting, we want to talk a little bit about the times that you're going to join us as well. So the focus for this evening is on three things. Move in, our weeks of welcome, and the programs that we will start to launch as early as Tuesday of next week to welcome our students to campus. And then we want to talk a little bit about health and safety and physical well-being. Future topics that you can look forward to, please take a moment to email me your suggestions. But things that I'm thinking about are how advising and registration will work in the future, how housing sign-up in the future will work, doing some office spotlights, talking a little bit about our education abroad opportunities, our life design area as part of the Radbill Center, talking a little bit about career connections in our Colleen Hub, and having other colleagues here who can speak to many of the other university initiatives that, as President Rogers said, that we're all in on every day to make sure that the BGSU experience is unparalleled for our students and our families. So for tonight's session, I have two colleagues with me. And again, the topics that we're going to focus on first relate to move-in and weeks of welcome. And so the first person that I'm going to be chatting a little bit with is Dr. Josh Lawrie from the Office of Residence Life. And so, Dr. Lawrie, would you mind introducing yourself briefly and just telling us a little bit about what the Office of Residence Life does?
Yeah, Chris, thanks for having me. Again, my name is Josh Lawrie. I'm the director here in the Office of Residence Life. Our focus is really providing a learning community to our students so they can begin growing outside the classroom. We know our students spend a good bit of time outside the classroom. The residence halls are really a key to that development and growth. We definitely are looking at safety and security, but the residence halls are really vibrant communities where our students learn to become the person they're going to be when they leave Bowling Green State University. And we know students who reside with us do better in the classroom and do better socially.
Thanks, Josh. You know, so I always like to throw in little random facts every once in a while, right? And I think it may surprise people. How many students will be living with us this fall?
This fall, we'll have a little bit over 5,200 students that'll be residing on campus.
So as you can see, about a fourth of our student body lives with us on campus. So as a residential campus, it's a really neat opportunity to be an administrator here, but more so to be a student, because I think there is a vibrant campus life that comes with having so many students on campus. All right, Josh, so if you're ready, I've got some questions that came in for us. So the first thing we'd love to hear about is how is move-in going to work primarily next week?
Yeah, so I will break that into three sections for us. So we have what we would call our early arrival, and that's any student that's arriving before August 16th. They typically are in a program, so maybe the Fly program, maybe you're in Generation Falcon. You're arriving prior to the traditional move-in time. So your information on move-in would be directed in your email from your program coordinator. But when you arrive to campus, you'll go straight to your residence hall and move in right at the front desk. So that's kind of how what we call early arrival works. Now, our new students who are not part of an early arrival, they will arrive between August 16th, 17th, and 18th. And what we do is a centralized move-in. So during their move-in time, which they pick themselves online, they will arrive at the STRO. So each move-in time is an hour duration. That hour is focused on the time that you should arrive at the STRO Center. When you arrive at the STRO Center, you'll snake through a line up to some move-in assistant, student staff that'll welcome you. And what we'll do at that time is we'll take your move-in ticket, which will be on your phone that you'll download from your My BGSU account. We'll scan that and we'll take your BG1 card to verify who you are. We'll hand you your room key and hand you a schedule on weeks of welcome. And at that point, you'll be cleared to go to your residence hall. When you arrive to your residence hall, you have 15 minutes to unload your car, but when you arrive there, you're going to be greeted by volunteers, Chris. That's the great thing about Bowling Green State University is our students come out to help other students. We usually have several hundred students who volunteer to help out. So we'll help you unload your car, and then we'll get your stuff straight up to your room. You don't have to stop anywhere else. You go right up to your room, and then we'll ask that you move your car to long-term parking. We have shuttles running that'll run any day during move-in from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. That'll pick you up at long-term parking and bring you back to the residence hall. So that's kind of how move-in works for our new students. Returning students are the exact same, but they arrive on August 20th and August 21st, and they arrive at the STRO Center and are directed right to their residence hall. You'll also find on move-in day there'll be a lot of volunteers. Not only students, but staff will be out and about. Freddie and Frida will be out for pictures, so it's really a good time. People have a nice time. What we find is when students arrive to their hall, usually within 15 minutes, they're up in their room unloading and unpacking things. The nice thing about spread out move-in, Chris, because we get asked all the time, why do you do such a long spread out? It's really designed around that student experience. In years past, we'd bring hundreds of students at one time. Now we bring about 20 students per building per hour. So it really allows for more flow for parents and students to get upstairs, get unloaded, and not the congestion of everyone. So,
thank you. Yeah. Now, again, as a reminder, certainly put questions in the chat. But because we got some of these in advance, we're going to wait to the end to take those questions because we may be asking ones that you have. So, a couple quick questions here. You said sort of quote unquote 15-ish minutes when we pull up at the hall. That sounds a little fast. Right. Does it move that quickly?
It does. Again, our volunteers, usually students pull up, volunteers start unloading things into carts, and we're wheeling the carts away. And then that's when we'll ask mom or dad to move the car to long-term parking. If you take a little bit longer, it's not a big deal. We'll work with you, but it's really about clearing those spaces for other families that are coming behind you.
Now, another question. So you talked about people arriving Tuesday or Wednesday, and we're going to talk a little bit about the fall welcome schedule where the mandatory events kick off on Thursday night. For students that are moving in on Tuesday or Wednesday, are there going to be things to do in the evening?
Yeah, there will be. The Office of Residence Life are putting on some events. We will do what we call a community dinner on Tuesday and Wednesday night, where we'll invite any students who are in the building to go to dinner with us as a building. We'll dine in the residence halls, just really about community, getting to know each other. And then on Tuesday night, we have an event called Ice to Meet You, which is big every year, where we'll be serving Conant ice cones, DJ, Imagination Station will be there, and we'll be handing out some glow cups to students. And so students really like that event. And then on Wednesday, we have Kick Off the Kreischer, which will be an event with some inflatables, food, DJ over there by Kreischer in the evening, and then we'll be showing a movie over by the Oaks that same night. So those are some events that we'll be doing around campus prior to the full kickoff of Weeks of Welcome.
Now, a minute ago, you covered a lot of ground about move-in, right? Getting off the interstate, heading to the Stroh Center for a moment, doing some paperwork, then heading to your hall. This is all packaged in something called a move-in guide, right? That
Correct.
Explains this. So if I've not found the move-in guide yet, where is it and how do I get it?
Yeah, your move-in guide is located in your My BGSU Housing and Meal app. You click on that, they'll be right there. That's where your move-in ticket and your move-in guide specific to your building, which gives you a lot of really good information about your building, but also about what to pack, what not to pack, and what to prepare for.
Now, I know one piece of advice you're probably going to give us in a minute is maybe don't bring too much.
Right.
But on the flip side, other than the move-in guide, what does a student absolutely have to have with them?
They need to have a photo ID. We like the BG1 card because your BG1 card is what's going to give you access to your residence hall, but also your meals. So it's really the student's lifeline. So that's one thing we ask for them. We have to have a photo ID. Maybe you don't have your BG1 card yet. A state ID will work just as well. We need to verify who's coming in to give them their room key.
And then before we move on from the Stroh and the move-in logistics part for a minute, any piece of advice you would give families and students, especially if they've never lived with us before?
Yeah, one of the biggest things is don't overpack. Students will arrive with a lot of cars, a lot of things. So we really say, think about what you need for the first 6 weeks. You don't need to pack the winter coat. You don't need to pack all the sweaters. So really think about what you need to get through the first 6 weeks in your car. In addition, we talk a lot about unpacking things and building anything prior to move-in. You'll find it's a lot easier to carry put that refrigerator in our car and move it when it's unpacked. The microwave unpacked. That's just a lot more things that we've got to move in the building and then you got to move back out. So we really encourage folks to unpack things, have them ready to go. The other thing is really bring folks along who can help and can be along for the ride. We do a lot of shuttling. We make things very convenient, but there is a lot of walking. So it's important to know that whoever we bring along will need to walk some. Sometimes that becomes a concern. So making sure who's along your party is able to help and get around campus pretty easily.
So clearly a lot of work goes in over the summer to get our halls ready to open. And everything from moving in some new furniture in certain areas, painting, all the things that need to be done. Yep. If a student on move-in day upon arrival, though, were to get there and there were to be an issue or concern that they needed addressed, what do they do to do that?
Yeah, hopefully that does not happen. Our RAs currently are right now checking rooms as we speak, making sure facilities are in order. But if something comes up that is not up to your standard or something isn't working, report that immediately to your RA. Your RA will show you how to put a work order in, and we'll get that addressed right away. That's really important to report it right away. What we find sometimes is something may not be to your standard or something may not be working, and no one reports it to us for 4 or 5 weeks, and then we hear about it when folks are upset. We work really diligently with our campus operations to get items addressed right away, so report it right away to us.
Thanks. Now, a couple of the questions that came in were a little bit about relationships. And so there was a question about maybe giving advice for how to start the semester off right with a roommate. And I think there could be 2 types of roommates, right? For some of us, maybe we're going to be living with somebody that's been our bestie for 15 years. On the flip side, it could be somebody that maybe we're meeting for the first time. And so what's some advice that you've got to help students?
Yeah, I'm going to break that in 2 different sections. So let's start about what we call potluck, or the roommate you don't know yet. Pick up the phone, call them. Clear communication is key. Asking questions about, what are we going to bring? What are we going to share? We should make no assumptions about that roommate relationship. And talking about, can I have guests over? Can, folks stay the night? Those are really important questions that people need to iron out in the beginning phase. The important thing about this is we do roommate agreements with all of our students in the residence halls. So within the first few weeks, the RA is going to come in and have these conversations. It's really, though, important if those conversations start before that first few weeks. So clear communication is really important. I'm sure Ben's going to talk a little bit about some health things that are important to talk about. What I would say about the roommates who know each other, have honest conversation. I can tell you, with over 20 years of working in residence life, roommates who have the biggest conflict are roommates who know each other and they think, I don't need to talk to Chris because I know Chris, so we're good, I'm going to share everything. And then that roommate dispute just grows. So it's really important, if you know each other, that you're having those really honest conversations. And what's important about roommates is it's a life skill. And that's one of the great things about living on campus is we're teaching you a life skill on how to manage things, how to have conflict civilly, how to mediate that. Because when you go out in the workforce, you're going to have to do this. You're going to have to share a cubicle area. You're going to have to work with a colleague. And I think a lot of our students who come to campus, my own kids they have their own room. They don't share a room. This is a life skill that's important that we teach. And at Bowling Green, we do a really good job of doing that. Another thing is, with our occupancies the way it is we're going to have to continue to work through these.
You talked a moment ago about a roommate agreement. For those of us that have never heard of that, what is it?
Yeah, a roommate agreement is kind of just setting some of those basic expectations. So when do we turn the light off? When do we allow, if I'm going to have an overnight guest, how soon do I need to let my roommate know? What's acceptable in the room? What are items we're going to share? Are we going to share food or are we not? And if you're living in a building such as Founders, Centennial, or Falcon, the roommate agreement will also talk about who's cleaning the bathroom. How often are we cleaning the bathroom? Who's providing supplies? So those are really conversations that we'll continue to have. Again, the resident assistant will sit down with folks and have these, and we'll revisit them throughout the semester.
So I can tell you the roommate agreement's a great tool, and highly recommend that our students take advantage of it, because it really does set the stage for what we hope is going to be a really great relationship, right? Now, you said the word talk to your roommate or communicate a lot. Snapchat and texting work, or what are we looking for here with communication?
For me, pick up the phone, direct communication back and forth so you can have that conversation. Again, what we find is people will Snapchat or they'll text, and people infer things that weren't there. So when we get people in a room or we get people on the phone having that conversation, it tends to work better. So open dialogue is really important at all times. And I think really being honest, where if you don't want to share something or something bothers you, saying that. Don't be afraid to say it. Again, you can always bring your RA in to help have that conversation, but we have to have the open dialogue to have really good relations.
Okay. So another question that we got that I really appreciated was, what if I'm looking for a different roommate? Whether it's right now before we arrive, or I'm interested in how a room change either to a different building or to a different roommate might work.
Okay. So if you're right now looking for a room change, we are beginning the process of slowing room changes because we're prepping for people to arrive. You can always send something to ResLife, so RESLIFE at bgsu.edu, and make that request. If we're able to do it, we're constantly doing room changes, but at some point we've got to get ready for move-in. After you move in, we kind of do this, what we call a freeze for 10 days, where we try not to do any room changes. And there's a couple things to that. One is strategic. We getting people to conversate, having conversations. If we immediately on day one allow people just to start moving, nobody would have conversations with each other, Chris. So our RAs come in, we try to work on that. We try to get those conversations flowing. But our room change process opens on September 7th. And what happens here at Bowling Green State University is a student can just put that request in online through their My BGSU portal, again, housing and meals. And if the space is available, they get approved and they can move. Now, what I would ask is before folks just start moving about the cabin, as we say, you have conversations with your roommate. Because what we find is all of a sudden Chris moves out, and then I would go to the RA and say, why did Chris leave? Well, I don't know because Chris never told me. So really, again, that communication is key. But September 7th, the room change process opens.
Now, you talked earlier about the value addedness of living on campus. So the question that we got here is, what's a couple of tips that you would give for students about resources that they should get connected with right away through residence life?
Yeah, number one, your RA. So I think for the student, get to know their RA right away. Your RA is going to know you. They're going to engage with you. So that's important. For the parent, the hall director. When you move in, you should find the hall director, get their name, their phone number. They're also on our website, but the hall director is your connection to parents. We also have what we call resident success mentors in our buildings. They help support academic success. They'll be around doing programming, but also will be in the lobbies to help connect around time to schedule for classes or getting you connected to tutoring. So those are some resources in our residential community, but definitely for students connecting with our RA. For parents, you should connect with your hall directors. And since we're talking to parents, if you have a concern, your hall director is your number one call. The RA, what we always remind folks is RAs are students. So we encourage parents to talk to their hall director, not the RA directly. And the hall director can help out.
Also this is a good time to remind individuals, right, about how to contact the Parent and Family Connections area. Because again, our goal is to be that one-stop shop that that you can call or email us if you don't know who else to contact or where to start. And we guarantee that we will get you the answer or we'll get you connected with someone who does. So again, you can always email families@bgsu.edu. You can call the office, 419-372-0438. You can come visit us in the Student Union up on the 3rd floor in room 301, and certainly want you following a couple of social media accounts, broadly the university. I'd also recommend following President Rogers. Your student's college is another great one, and that way you're gonna stay up to date on information. Mm-hmm. So let's shift a little bit away from move-in for just a minute and talk a little bit about what we call weeks of welcome. So whether you're a brand new student arriving or a returning student, we know that those first 4 to 6, 7 weeks are really critical for the semester. It just sets the tone. It gets us off on the right foot. We're developing the right habits. We're meeting people, and we're making the connections that we need to make, and we're building confidence in ourselves. So you said that, for weeks of welcome, right, it starts right away on Tuesday for those that are moving in. Want to make sure that our families and students know that there are some mandatory events that are part of Weeks of Welcome for our students who are coming to the university for the first time. So whether it's an incoming first-year student or a transfer. And I would urge you to check out our website. It's bgsu.edu/wow, WOW, for Weeks of Welcome. And I just quickly want to call out some of those mandatory or required events for our first-year students. So on Thursday evening, we're going to have some floor meetings for our residential students to get the year started right. For our commuting students, we want to welcome you by having you join us out at the SIBO Center. And I believe that a postcard has been mailed at this point and should be arriving. But to make sure that our commuter students know that while our residential students are meeting with their floor mates, we want to get you together and welcome you as a group out at SIBO. Now after that, there's an event that we call the Big Welcome. And it's going to happen out at the Doit, which is our football stadium, football field. And there's 2 things there that I'm super excited about. Number one, we're going to take a class photo. So we're going to take a little over 3,000 people, and we're going to coordinate you on the field to take an amazing photo. And then before we dismiss, I hear that there are going to be some fireworks that are going to close out that event. So certainly an opportunity that we don't want you to miss. And then there's going to be late night programming after that. But that's our first event that we're off and running. When we get to Friday, I want to remind everyone that the official academic welcome is what we call convocation. That's going to happen on Friday morning, and I cannot stress enough that our families and our students are checking their email. So for students, you're going to be getting information about these programs via email. For families, the night before convocation, so on that Thursday night, we're going to send you an email to remind you that it's happening tomorrow. And then on that Friday morning, we're going to email you the link to convocation so that you can watch and watch your student's official academic welcome to the university. After that, there's going to be a great opportunity for a cookout with the president and our students to continue to mingle. And then they'll do a Get With the Program session where they'll be with other students from their academic major and or college. And again, where they need to report on that Friday afternoon is going to be emailed to them. So it is imperative that they be checking their email to know where to go for Friday afternoon. And then it looks like a couple other things that we have on here, right? There's going to be nighttime programming, bingo. I can't wait to go to bingo. There's always great fun and prizes there. Saturday morning, we'll do a session that will talk a little bit more about our community of care topics that you heard about at orientation. And so that session again starts at 10 o'clock. And then I'm looking forward to the ice cream social that will happen and the traditions tours in the afternoon. And so again, a lot happening right away. Some of those are mandatory, and we just want everyone checking their email and checking out that Weeks of Welcome calendar. From there, lots of stuff over the next 4 to 6 weeks. All of our students are encouraged to take care of. I know I'm really looking forward to the second annual Rally BG on Main. I got to go down there last year. Did you get to stop by that event?
Yeah.
It was amazing, right? We had a zip line down Main Street. There was food. There was fun. So many people. Then you do not want to miss Campus Fest. Campus Fest on Tuesday, August the 30th from 1 to 4 happens outside here. If you're on campus, you're not going to miss it. But get it on your calendar, because this is going to be the opportunity to meet upwards of 350 of our student organizations, our academic departments, some local vendors from town. It is one of those events that you do not want to miss. And then we've got some additional welcome events. I always enjoy attending our Big Gay Welcome for our LGBTQ plus students and allies, as well as our Multicultural Welcome and Reception. And those are on August 31st and September 7th, respectively. And then we're going to definitely spend some time on this in a future session, but it is the 100th homecoming at Bowling Green State University this fall, and it is for sure going to be the biggest homecoming to date, right? And then our bookend to the Weeks of Welcome is Family Weekend. And again, we're about to flip the switch to update our website and for you to be able to go there, see a list of events, register for Family Weekend, etc. So for both our students and our families, so many things to do those first 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, Chris, and I think something really important, because some families and some students might be feeling a little overwhelmed by that first week of welcome. And how am I going to get there? It's important to know RAs are going to take students to the first few events.
Yeah.
So you'll always have a connection. That RA is going to help make sure you get connected. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, that's okay. That's a normal feeling. That's what the RA is going to be there to do, to get you to the event you need to be at.
And if you have a student that's commuting and they're at home, they shouldn't be, because there's plenty to do, right? So make sure that you're checking out the schedule and you're reminding them about those opportunities, because we definitely want them, our commuting students, to be connected and engaged with us as well. Ben, you doing okay down there? We haven't gotten to you yet.
This is odd for me.
I know. So Ben, introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, so I'm Ben Batey. I'm the Chief Health and Wellness Officer at BGSU. I'm also the Hazing Prevention Coordinator. I oversee the Division of Health and Wellness, and so our division is designed and geared towards really supporting, our entire BGSU community, and especially students. So anything when it comes to health, wellness, and well-being, we're really there to help students and leverage all of the resources that we have on campus to make sure that they're connected, and that throughout their entire time here at BGSU, they feel supported in their physical health, their mental health, and any other needs that they may have. And so I work very closely with Josh's area, with Chris's area, to make sure. You probably heard us talk, whether you heard myself or Chris talk about our community of care at orientation, that we really highlighted all of the resources that we have, and our goal in all of this is to support your student in being successful in their time here at BGSU.
So Ben, since your arrival on campus, you have primarily been the face at times of the university, talking about how we're going to manage COVID, right? And I don't know about you, but I keep thinking at some point we're going to not be talking about how we're managing COVID now, but we're not there yet. So can you talk a little bit about how fall 2022 is going to work?
Yeah, absolutely. So my background's in public health, and certainly for the last 2 academic years now, we've really had to navigate COVID in a more restrictive fashion at times, depending on when we saw those surges nationwide, where we really had to leverage everything that we had to protect our community. We had at-risk members within our community as well, and at times we didn't have vaccines available early on. We didn't have testing available early on, and so we had to make some decisions on social distancing. We all felt this in our lives in some of the lockdowns. We're moving beyond that point now. We're actually reaching a different stage in this pandemic to where we can start to have more of a sense of normalcy as well. And so we work on a daily basis with the local health departments, with the local hospital systems to assess what we're seeing within our communities and what we need to do to navigate things appropriately. Luckily, we're entering this fall semester, I think, in a much better position than we've been entering any of the previous fall semesters, to the point where we no longer have to require very strict isolation of students that test positive for COVID. I think we've all probably seen this amongst our families and our friends. We probably all know people or ourselves tested positive for COVID and had to go through a 10 or 5 day isolation. Luckily, that isolation period recommendation is now down to 5 days. There was a lot of quarantining that was happening that was disrupting our lives as well. We're moving beyond that phase as well. And so what we really want to stress for this fall semester, much as Josh and Chris talked about, having a conversation if you have a roommate, that's extremely important when it comes to your physical health as well. How are you going to navigate the fall and the winter when there's an expectation that at some point over this academic year, somebody's going to get sick, right? Whether that's a cold, whether that's the flu, whether that's COVID, there's all sorts of things that may be circulating, and we need to have a conversation of how do we navigate that as roommates? Is it going to be that students care for students? Are we going to care for each other? Am I going to offer to run and get you food and bring that back because you're isolating in our room and I'm feeling good and healthy, so I can go out and I can help provide those supplies to you? Is it more appropriate based on the conversations that we have that if someone's sick, they go home to get care from a family or friends at home or loved ones at home that can care for them, because that's a better setup based on the conversations and the comfort level that we're each having together. All throughout this pandemic, the university has tried to leverage every resource we can to support students, and so we still will have some spaces available. They won't be required isolation spaces. Students can choose to isolate within their residence hall room, but if based on conversations, maybe a student can't get on an airplane to travel home, and in between the two roommates, that's going to be the best scenario, is to isolate separately apart. We have a space set aside that we can move a student to still have their own isolation space where we don't have that conflict amongst somebody being ill and another member being concerned about that. At the same time, maybe it's the healthy roommate that decides to leave because that's easier for them because they're feeling healthy. They can still go out and about and do things. We'll have separate space available for an individual that may just want to remove themselves from the room for a period of 5 days and to be on their own during that period of time while a person is recovering. Ultimately, all of this is conversations, though, that we would like individuals to have up front and early, so that'll help us on the back end so that we don't have conflict when you do get sick or that does arise as well. At the same time, the Falcon Health Center is readily available to assess anybody that maybe has any sort of physical symptoms that they need assessed. We'll still have our ample supply of rapid tests available at the front desks of many of our buildings, and masks for those who may need to wear them for a period of time. I'm recommending for a lot of people to start to think about, as we navigate, this new stage of COVID, if you have an event coming up, say you have a family wedding or maybe a family vacation you're going to take that you absolutely do not want to be derailed from, you don't want to be sick for, that's a great time to start making choices a week out from that event to possibly wear masks in crowded environments, maybe start to limit your contact in certain crowded environments. And I think we can all start to plan and design our lives around those strategies rather than having to go through our whole life living in lockdown or separated from other individuals.
The other question I got, Ben, was so where is the university right now as it relates to monkeypox?
Yeah, so absolutely. You know, if you turn on the news now, we're kind of transitioning. The media is moving away from news stories on COVID, and you're probably seeing news stories on monkeypox. You know, to be clear, monkeypox can impact any one of us, but at the same time, there's certain communities that we're certainly acknowledging where the spread seems to be occurring most, and we're going to be leveraging education. If you'll see that in some of our upcoming newsletters and education materials that'll be going out to our entire BGSU community. We have no anticipation that monkeypox will be anywhere near the same level that COVID was in spread. It's not an airborne virus that can spread as quickly or as readily as COVID. It truly is that physical contact. It's that close proximity to people that you know we're choosing to spend time with in a very close, intimate fashion. And so while it certainly is not a sexually transmitted infection by any stretch, it's a skin-to-skin contact infection usually, but it can happen in sexual contact as well. And so that's what we're seeing, you know, specifically right now in about 98% of the cases, it is in men who have sex with men. And so that's something that we'll continue to educate on, but there is no reason that it can't spread into other members within the community as well. And so we want to make sure that we're educating our entire campus community on this, but it's not something that someone has to worry about. I'm going to be in a classroom with many other students and I should be fearful or concerned about that. We certainly, much like with COVID, where we all have personal abilities to start to make choices for ourselves to protect ourselves, it's the exact same thing with monkeypox. You know, we can choose who we spend that close, intimate contact with. We can choose, you know, proper hand washing. We can choose to wipe down surfaces if that's a concern for you. But again, the vast majority is going to be that very prolonged, intimate contact where we're going to potentially see spread. But we've already been starting to have meetings with the health departments and with our hospital systems and with Falcon Health, so that we already have plans in place should anyone need to potentially isolate because of being tested for a case or, you know, testing positive. Those same resources and everything that we learned in navigating COVID, the fortunate thing that came out of that was we can now navigate any sort of viral illness because we have that background and that blueprint to leverage those resources.
And Ben, I just want to take a moment to say thank you to you for your leadership in helping us with the COVID pandemic. And I've been so proud of our entire Falcon community, from our faculty, staff, our students, our families, who have all really leaned into this idea of a community of care, and that we're so interdependent and that we need to make good choices and to look out for and take care of one another. Now, Ben, I'm going to selfishly tell you this one's my question, because I'm a big believer. I'm a big believer in an ounce of prevention, right? So, what are some tips that you would want our families to be thinking about that they could relay to their students about how to proactively and preventatively invest in their health and wellness?
Yeah, so you know the one thing that we're seeing across the board, especially with COVID or even with monkeypox cases or any virus that's out there, you know, any sort of infection that we may see, is the quicker your immune system can fight that off, the better your outcome's going to be. You know, the better that we're going to end up, and there's ways that we can structure our life. Again, personal responsibility. We talk at orientation on the decisions that students can make. You know, getting a great night's sleep, proper, you know, nutrition, and then exercising, you know, making sure that their stress levels aren't getting out of check, and maybe connecting with the counseling center if you do feel like your stress or your anxiety is reaching too high of a point. All of these things are going to put you in a solid physical health state that, should you be exposed to any sort of illness throughout the academic year, you're going to recover very quickly, and you'll probably be one of our cases that's so mild you may not even notice it at times. And so that's what we want for the vast majority of our community. We don't want to see anybody who's repeatedly sick because they're so run down in their system that now, you know, I had a cold this week and I had to miss out on classes. The next week I got the flu, you know, and then maybe a month later I got COVID. That's a scenario that we really want to try to avoid for a lot of our students. So keeping your immune system prime is going to be key.
Thanks, Ben. So we're at the point in our series tonight where I'd like to begin to take some questions from you. Just a quick reminder, this idea, right, is again that once a month we would come to you, a very informal opportunity to introduce you to different university individuals, to have a discussion about some things that we think are important, but more importantly to get information that we think is important to you. And in between those, we'll also make a commitment to continue sending you emails along the way through our family portal so that you're up to date on information. And so I hope that you're really seeing our commitment to understand understanding just how valuable you are to this partnership and relationship, and that we want to be here to support you every step of the way as you're helping to support your student. So again, like I said, we'll be back here in about a month doing this again. But with that, where we are now, I'd love to see if there's some questions that we've gotten.
Yeah, the first question is around the Falcon Health Center and hours for Falcon Health Center.
Yeah, so their hours may vary depending on availability, but generally they are open for the vast majority of the day because they do operate as an urgent care. And so I would encourage you to go to their website to make sure you're having the most current hours, because sometimes they may fluctuate at different times, but they make those very direct on the website. The other thing I will make clear with the Falcon Health Center is if you can encourage your student to actually become a primary care patient there, they may be able to get in actually quicker. They may not have the wait time of the urgent care. You can imagine during certain times of the winter when there's just a lot of illness circulating, you may go to the Falcon Health Center to go through the urgent care side of things, and it may be potentially an hour wait or longer. Where if you're already an established primary care patient, you can call. A lot of times they can get you in same day, and you'll have a scheduled appointment time. So if you're already not feeling well, you don't have to sit in a waiting room for a long period of time. You'll be able to walk right in. They'll take you right to a room, and you'll be able to see that primary care provider, and you'll already have that relationship for the next 4 years over the course of time, that you'll know who your primary care provider is, and be able to start to build that where you can call anytime and they can assist you with services.
Ben, just a quick reminder, can you remind us some other things that Falcon Health does? So urgent care and primary, but...
Yeah, absolutely. So they are really the sort of the one-stop shop for all your potential healthcare needs. So not only would they have that primary care option, the urgent care if you do wake up, in the morning and I got that sore throat, I want to be assessed for strep throat or maybe, is it COVID? What's happening there? But at the same time, they also have labs. So if you need any labs drawn, you can have that done right within their facility, even if that's from another provider that orders labs for you. They also can provide any vaccine that you might need, and are going to actually be hosting some walk-in vaccine clinics early in the semester on August 26th. They're going to have a walk-in COVID booster vaccine clinic from 9 to 3 p.m. where if a student wants to get a booster right before starting the semester, they can do that. As we start to plan other booster vaccine clinics and flu vaccine clinics, we're going to have them on campus here in the fall, offering those as well. And then probably most importantly is the fact that they have a pharmacy. And so again, for your student, if they already have medications that they potentially need to have refilled at different times, rather than having to drive back home to a pharmacy to have those prescriptions filled, they can shift that prescription right here and just pick it up right across the street.
Thanks, Ben.
A lot of questions about early move-in, what that experience will be like in terms of that support, any kind of help moving in.
Yeah, early move-in is kind of what it says. It's early move-in, so our student volunteers are not there because they haven't arrived yet. So you're a little bit more on your own, but the residence life staff is there in the building. It should flow pretty smoothly. You just will not go to the STRO. You'll go straight to your residence hall. You'll check in right at the desk, get your room key there, pick up a cart, and can load your stuff and take it upstairs.
And the great part of that, right, is you're moving in early to be connected with an experience.
Correct.
So whether it's band members, part of a Generation Falcon, there's going to be other people there that are part of that same experience. So you're, while everyone's not here yet, you're going to be part of a cohort right away.
Right, correct.
Another question about dining halls. When will those open?
I've been told that come Monday afternoon, I can't remember the exact time, the meal plans will become active. And so our dining halls will, and they have some availability now. But again, if you go to our dining website, they have their hours out there. And they are clearly aware that we're bringing in our new students next week, and they will have those options, the various options open. They may be some slightly different hours because, again, a lot of our workers are students. So as we begin to open the year, but that information is available on their website. And as I said, those meal plans will be active come Monday.
Another question about requesting adjustments to bed heights when you arrive. What is that process like to do?
Yeah, so if you are in Centennial or Falcon and you want your bed loft changed, you will go down to the front desk and there'll be staff there that'll help you. They'll go right up, and loft that bed or unloft that bed for you. If you're in any of the other buildings I mentioned, you will go to the front desk, pick up a card that has a phone number on it, and you'll text that card or text that number, and then they'll schedule an appointment for them to arrive to your room and loft your bed or de-loft your bed. We'd like you to use our service to de-loft your bed or loft your bed because we have experience in doing that. We don't want anyone to get hurt. So go to the front desk and they'll take care of you.
I'm mindful of time, but I promised you we'd stay on a few more minutes after to continue taking a couple questions. So do we have another question?
Weeks of Welcome, is that just for incoming freshmen? Who can attend Weeks of Welcome?
Great question. While there are some required events, parts of Weeks of Welcome that I mentioned earlier that are required for our new students, the Weeks of Welcome for those 4 to 6 weeks are open to anyone. And a matter of fact, I think some of the people that enjoy them the most are maybe our sophomores, juniors, or seniors who are back and looking to reconnect with friends that they haven't seen over the summer. And so, yes, we absolutely invite all of our students to participate in those events. And again, you can find those at bgsu.edu/WOW or WOW.
Okay, I think we are ready for closing comments from President Rogers.
Great. Well, President Rogers, I really appreciate that you've allowed us to launch this series, and so thank you so much.
Well, Dean Bullins, thank you for your leadership. I want to thank my colleagues, Josh, Ben, thank you for being here. We are absolutely committed to the success of each and every one of our students. When you come to this institution, that is our commitment to you. We want to make sure that you take advantage of all those opportunities and have opportunities to connect with each other. What an exciting time. It is absolutely an exciting time, and the energy that we find here at Bowling Green State University when our new students are coming in and our returning students truly transforms our campus into the great place it is. And so we are so excited to see you in, it's coming up quick here this next week. And we thank you again for joining us. And certainly I'm looking for, appreciate Chris's work in scheduling future Facebook Live events where we'll be bringing you a variety of additional information. To the families and parents, we want you to know you are an important part of this learning community. And so we certainly want to know about concerns you have, suggestions and ideas you have. We need to know about that information. And so we appreciate you being an active member of this community. As I mentioned at the beginning, it is about being all in. It's about being a part of this community. Amazing things happen. And I know some will be coming to maybe a campus that seems overwhelming because of the size. There'll be others coming that will say, oh, this campus may be a little too small. Will I like my roommate? There are so many, not a little bit of, maybe perhaps a little anxiety. We all know that. We've all been through that. That is part of the experience. But we are here to absolutely help each and every one of you be successful. So Chris, thank you. Josh, Ben, thank you very much. Is that it? I think we're no longer live on Facebook. Again, thank you so much. I Ziggy Zumba. We'll see you soon.